The 17th of February, 1901, Volume 4. Man comes from God and must return to God. This morning, as I was all oppressed in suffering, I saw my beloved Jesus for just a little, as well as many people immersed in many misery. Then, breaking the silence he had kept for many days, he said, "My daughter, man is born in me first, receiving the imprint of the divinity. Then as he goes out of me to be reborn from the maternal womb, I give him the command to walk a little stretch of the way. And at the end of that way, letting myself be found by him, I receive him again into myself, making him live eternally with me. See now how noble man is, where he comes from and where he goes and what his death. Now what should the sanctity of this man be, coming out of a God so holy? But in covering the way to come to me again, man destroys that of the divine which he has received. He corrupts himself in such a way that at the encounter I have with him to receive him into myself, I no longer recognize him. I no longer see the divine imprint in him. I find nothing of my own in him, and no longer recognizing him, my justice condemns him to go wandering on the way of perdition." How tender it was to hear Jesus Christ speak about this. How many things he made me comprehend. But my state of suffering does not permit me to write any further. End of the reading. The 17th of February, 1902, Volume 4. Jesus explains what death is. This morning, after much waiting, finally I found my most sweet Jesus, and lamenting to him, I said, "My beloved good, how can you make me wait so long? Do you perhaps not know that without you I cannot live, and my soul experiences a continuous dying?" And he, "My beloved, every time you look for me, you dispose yourself to dying, because in truth, what is death, if not stable and permanent union with me? Such was my life, a continuous dying for love of you. And this continuous death was the preparation for the great sacrifice of dying on the cross for you. Know that one who lives in my humanity and nourishes himself from the works of my humanity forms of himself a great tree, filled with abundant flowers and fruits, which form the nourishment of God and of. For one who lives outside of my humanity, then, his works are odious to God and unfruitful for himself, abundantly into me, mixed both bitternesses and sweetnesses. Then we went round a little in the midst of people, but I could not remove my gaze from the face of my beloved Jesus. On, see- on seeing this, he told me, "My daughter, one who lets himself be enticed by the works of his Creator leaves the works of creatures suspended." End of the reading. The 17th of February, 1918, Volume 12. The heat of the divine will destroys imperfections. I was feeling a little distracted, and pouring myself into the holy will of God, I asked forgiveness for my distraction. And Jesus told me, "My daughter, with its heat the sun destroys the miasma, the infectious part of manure, when it is spread into the soil in order to fecundate the plants. Otherwise they would rot and would end up withering. Now, as soon as the soul enters, destroys the infection, the defects, which the soul has contracted in her distraction. Therefore, As soon as you feel a distraction, do not remain within yourself, but enter into my will immediately, so that my heat may purify you and prevent you from withering. End. The 17th of February, 1922, Volume 14. Love is the cradle of man. I felt oppressed because of the privation of my sweet Jesus, and I did nothing but call him, desire him, but in vain. After much hardship, when I could take no more, he came. Who knows how many things I wanted to tell him, but he rose up high without giving me time, and I looked at him and called him, Jesus, Jesus, come. He too looked at me, and he let a dew rain upon me from his person, which beaded all of me. This dew drew him toward me in such a way that he lowered himself toward me and told me, my daughter, the desire of the soul to see me tears the veil which exists between time and eternity, and her repeated desire makes her take flight to come close to me. My love is almost restless when I see that the soul yearns for me, but I do not make myself seen, and only then does she calm herself when I not only make myself seen, but I give her new charisms and new pledges of love. My love is always in the act of wanting to give new pledges of love to the creature, and as soon as it sees that my will takes the operating and directing role of giving itself to the creature, my love makes feast, runs, flies toward her, and becomes the cradle of man. And if it sees that she does not rest in its cradle, it rocks her and sings for her to make her rest and sleep on its lap. And while she sleeps, it breathes into her mouth, give her new life of love. If it sees from her breath that her heart is not happy, by sending her its breath, my love forms the cradle for her within her heart, so as to take the bitterness, hindrances, and bothers away from her and make her happy with love. And when she wakes up, oh, how my love rejoices in seeing her reborn, happy and full of life. It says to her, see, I rocked you on my lap to give you rest. I kept vigil at your side during your sleep so that you might wake up strong, happy, and completely different from the one you were. Now I want to be a cradle for your steps, for your words, for everything. Think that you are being rocked by me and place your love in the cradle of my love so that identifying ourselves with each other, we may make each other happy. Be careful not to put anything else, otherwise you'll. That my love is that which comes closest to man, even more. It is the cradle in which he was born, although everything is in harmony in my divinity, just as the members are in harmony with the body. Even though the intelligence takes on the direct, if he does not want, one can say that the eye does not see, the hand does not work, the foot does not walk. On the other hand, if he wants, the eye sees, the hand works, the foot runs, all members place themselves in accord. The same with my divinity. My will takes on the directing role, and all the other attributes place themselves in full harmony in order to follow what my will wants. Therefore wisdom, power, science, goodness, and so on concur. And since all of my attributes, although distinct among themselves, live in the fount of love and overflow with love, this is why, while it is love that runs, acts and gives itself, all of my other attributes concur with it. Furthermore, that which is most necessary to man is love. Love is like bread for the natural life. One can do without science, power, wisdom, or at most These are things which one wants in time and circumstance. But what would one say if I had created man and did not love him? Besides, why create him if I were not to love him? It would be a dishonour for me and a work unworthy of me, who can do no other thing but love. And what would happen to man if he did not have an origin of love and could not love? He would be a brute and unworthy even to be looked at. Therefore, love must run in everything. Love should run in all the human actions, just as the image of the king circulates in the currency of a kingdom. And if the coins are not marked with the image of the king, they are not recognized as. If love does not run in a work, it is not recognized as my work. End of the reading. The 17th of February 1929, Volume 25. The soul who lives in the divine will is inseparable from it. Example of the light. I was doing my round in the acts of the divine fiat, but with an oppression that took life away from me because of the usual privations of my sweet Jesus. Everything was hardship and unspeakable bitterness. It seemed to me that divine will which was giving me life, and that possesses immense seas of light, of joy, of happiness without end, was crossed for me by clouds of oppression and of bitterness because of the privations of him whose absence now, after I had lived and was raised together with him for such a long time, forms for me the clouds too embitter for me the light and the happiness of his very divine will. Oh, what pain! But while I was following the acts of the divine fiat in this stage, my beloved Jesus, just barely moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, courage. Do not oppress yourself too much. You must know that one who lives in my divine will is inseparable from it and from me. My will is similar to the light that contains light, heat, and colours, that, though distinct among themselves, are yet inseparable. The light cannot exist nor have life without the heat. The heat cannot have life without the light, and the colours are formed by the strength of the light and of the heat. One cannot be without the other. One is the life, one is the strength. The light, the heat, and the colours begin their life together. They continue it without ever separating, and if they have to die all in one blow, they end their life. Such is the inseparability of the soul who lives in my divine will. She is inseparable from me and from all the acts of my divine fiat. She enters into the life of the light and of the heat of my divine volition, and acquires the life of its light and of its heat. And since its incessant act can be called the multiplicity infinity of its acts, the colours that my divine will produces, the soul forms one single act with it. You must know that the inseparability of one who lives in my divine volition is such and so great that when the eternal wisdom created the heavens, the sun, and the whole universe, you were together with me and were flowing in my divine fiat like light, heat, and colours. I would have been so very wary of doing even a single act of my will without my little daughter or one who lives in it. It would be as if I were lacking the strength of the light, of the heat, and of the colours. This I cannot lack, and therefore you are inseparable from me. So courage, and do not oppress yourself." On hearing this, I said to him, "My love, if it were so, then in all the acts of your divine will, I was there too in the middle. Before sinning, Adam possessed your fiat. And so when he sinned, I was there too, and this I would regret. And Jesus added, My daughter, you must know that in my divine will there is the permissive act and the wanted act. In the fall of Adam there was the permissive act, but not wanted by it, and in the permissive act, the light, the heat, and the multiplicity of colours of my divine will place themselves aside and remain untouchable without meddling in the human act. On the other hand, in the wanted act, they form one single act and one single thing. Does the light of the sun become stained because he passes over rubbish? Certainly not. Light remains always light and rubbish remains rubbish. On the contrary, the light triumphs over everything and remains untouchable by anything, regardless of whether they trample upon it or whether it invests the dirtiest things, because things extraneous to light do not enter into its life of light. My divine will is more than the sun. Like light, it flows in all human acts, but it remains untouchable by all the evils of creatures, and only those who want to be light, heat, and colours, that is, those who want to live only and always of its divine will, can enter into it. Anything else does not belong to it. Therefore you can be sure that you did not enter into the fall of Adam, because his fall was not an act of light, but of darkness, and one shuns the other. End of the reading. The 17th of February 1930, Volume 29. How the Divine Will is the heartbeat and the creature is the heart. The Divine Will the breath, the creature the body. Inseparability of one from the other. The divine volition continues to occupy my little intelligence, and I, immersing myself in it, feel its vivifying strength that surrounds me inside and out. And my sweet Jesus, who seems to hide behind the gigantic waves of light and his divine volition, very often moves in these waves of light, and making himself seen with unspeakable tenderness, he told me, My daughter, my divine will is heartbeat without heart. The creature is the heart. My will is the heartbeat. See what inseparable union exists between my fiat and the creature. The heart is nothing. It has no value without the heartbeat. With the heartbeat, the life of the creature is constituted, but the heartbeat cannot beat without the heart. Such is my divine will. If it does not have the nothingness of the heart of the creature, it has no place in which to form its heartbeat of life, to carry out and form its divine life. See then, not having a heart, my divine will has created it in the creature, as to have its heart in which to be able to form its heartbeat. In addition to this, my divine will is breath without body. The creature is the body, my will is the breath. The body without the breath is dead. So what forms the breath of the creature is my divine will. Therefore one can say, the body of it is that of the creature, and her breath is that of my divine volition. See what further union exists between one and the other, a union that cannot be separated, because if the breath ceases, life ceases. Therefore, my divine will is everything for the creature. It is word without mouth. It is light without eye. It is hearing without ears. It is work without hands. It is step without feet. And therefore the soul who lives in my divine will serves it as mouth, as eye, as ears, as hands, and as feet. My will restricts itself to enclose itself in the creature, while remaining immense and victorious. It forms its kingdom in her, making use of her as if she were its body. in which it palpitates, breathes, speaks, operates, and walks. Therefore, the sorrow of my divine fiat, because creatures do not lend themselves to let it carry out all its operation in them, to let it reign, and they force it to silence and to inactivity, is incomprehensible. And with divine and unspeakable patience, it waits for those who must live in its will, so as to resume its speaking and its divine activity, to form its kingdom in the midst of creatures. Therefore, be attentive, my daughter. Listen to the speaking of my divine fiat. Give it life in all your acts, and you will see the unexpected portents that my divine will do in you. May everything be for the glory of God and for the fulfillment of His most holy will. End of the reading. February 17th, 1931, Volume 29. Impositions, most bitter tears. Jesus consoles her by assuring her that He concedes to her the grace of not letting her fall into sufferings, how only voluntary suffering constitutes the true victim. I am going through most bitter days. My poor existence goes on under the nightmare of a tragedy. My Jesus, help me, do not abandon me, you who have always been so good with me, and have sustained me with so much love in the struggles of my life. Oh, please do not leave me now that the struggles are more terrible and fierce. Oh, please, my love, show your power. See, O Jesus, they are not demons that fight against me, for with a sign of the cross I would make them flee who knows where. But they are the superiors, whom you alone can put in their place. I am the poor condemned one, and I myself do not know what I have done. Oh, how sorrowful is my story. They told me that they want to put me under another priest authorized by the bishop, who will call doctors and will do all those tests that he wants, leaving me abandoned by everyone else at the mercy of this man. At such announcement, I burst into tears, unable to stop crying. My eyes had become fountains. I spent the whole night crying, and I prayed Jesus to give me the strength to put an end to so much tempest. See, I said, my love, it has been 2 months and more of continuous struggles with creatures, struggles with you that you would not let me fall into sufferings, and oh, how much it costs me to struggle with my Jesus. But not because I do not want to suffer, but because those who are over me want to suffer. Now I can bear no more, and only then will I stop crying. When you tell me that you concede to me to free me from the bother I give to the priest, the war is all because of this. And I cried and cried with such bitterness that I felt my blood being poisoned in my veins, so much so that I often felt as though without life, without breath. But since I felt so, I continued to cry and sob. Then while I was in a sea of tears, my sweet Jesus clasped me to himself in his arms, and with a tender voice, as if he too wanted to cry, told me, my good daughter, do not cry any more. My heart can bear no more. Your tears have descended deep into the depth of it, and I feel your bitterness so vividly that I feel it burst. My daughter, courage. You know that I have loved you very, very much. Now this love does violence to me, to make you content. If until now I have kept you suspended from the state of sufferings for a few days in order to make them comprehend that my will has to continue to keep you as I have kept you for as many as 46 years, however, that they want to get you now that they want to get you with your back to the wall, they put me in the condition of making use of my permissive will, not wanted, of suspending you from the state of victim. Therefore, do not fear. From now on, I will no longer communicate to you my pains. I will no longer lay myself within you in a way that you would remain stiffened and without motion. So you will remain free without having need of anyone. Be tranquil, daughter, until they calm down, and for as long as they do not want you to fall into suffering, I will not do it again. Now you must know that the state of sufferings in which I used to put you regarded my humanity, that wanted to continue its life of pains in you. Now the most important thing is left to you, my will. Do you give me your word that you will live always in it, that you will be the sacrificed one, the victim of my will, that letting it dominate within me, you will not surrender a single act of life to your will? Assure me, good daughter, that you will neglect nothing of what I have taught you to do, and will continue what you have done until now in my fiat. This is the culminating point of your Jesus over you, placing the rights of my will in safety in your soul. Therefore, hurry, tell me that you will make me content. And I, my Jesus, I promise, I swear I want it, to follow what you have taught me. But you must not leave me, because with you I can do anything, but without you I am good at nothing. And Jesus continued, saying, Do not fear. I do not leave you. Know that I love you. And if I have induced myself to conceive that you would not fall into the state of sufferings, it was nothing other than a great, intense, excessive love towards you. In seeing you crying so much, my love conquered my will and put a stop for now. But know that the scourges will rain down like pouring rain. They deserve it. When they do not want the victims the way it pleases me and in the way wanted by me, they justly deserve to be struck severely. And do not think that I will do it on this very day, but let a little time pass, and then you will see and hear what my justice has in store. So I spent the first day free, without struggling with my Jesus, because since he had assured me that he would not let me fall into suffering, I no longer felt myself being incited, pushed to accept, to submit myself to the pains that Jesus wanted to give me. But while the struggle had ceased, such a fear had still remained in me that my beloved Jesus might surprise me all of a sudden. And in order to calm me, he told me, Good daughter, do not fear. Your Jesus told you this, and that's enough. I am not a creature who can fail to keep my word. I am God, and when I speak, I do not change. I told you that until they calm down and fix things, I will not let you fall, and so it shall be. And even if the world went upside down because my justice wants to punish the creatures, I will not change my word. In fact, you must know that there is nothing that placates justice more, and that reaches the point of changing the greatest chastisements into deeds of graces than voluntary suffering. And it is not those who suffer out of necessity because of illness or misfortune that can be called true victims. The whole world is full of these sufferings, but those who voluntarily offer themselves to suffer what I want and in the way I want. These are the victims that resemble me. My suffering was all voluntary. They could give me not one pain, even the slightest, had I not wanted it so. This is why, when I had to make you fall into suffering, I almost always asked you whether you voluntarily accepted, so as to have your voluntary suffering, not forced. A suffering that is forced or out of necessity is nothing great before God. What enamours, what enraptures, and what reaches the point of binding God himself is the voluntary suffering. If you knew how my heart was wounded, when you would put yourself in my hands like a little lamb, so that I might bind you and do to you whatever I wanted. I deprived you of motion. I petrified you. I can say that I made you feel mortal pain, and you would let me do it. And this was nothing. The strongest tie was that you could not go out of that state of pain in which your sacrificer, Jesus, had put you, if my minister would not come to call you to obedience. This is what constituted you true victim. No sick person, not even the very prisoners, are not denied motion and seeking help in extreme needs. Only for you had my love prepared the greatest cross, because great things I wanted and want to make of you. The greater are my designs, the more singular the cross it forms. And I can say that there has never been in the cross, in the world, a cross similar to what with so much love your Jesus had prepared for you. Therefore my sorrow is indescribable in seeing myself opposed by creatures, as much authority as they may have, in the ways that I want to have with souls. They want to dictate to me the laws, as if they knew more than I do. Therefore my sorrow is great, and my justice wants to punish those who have been the cause of such a great sorrow for me. End of the reading. There are no